Good. Very good. So, good evening, everybody. Before we start today's session, let me briefly recap what we covered previously and set the direction for today's meeting. Let me turn off the camera to enhance the connectivity first. Okay. So, what we covered in the previous session, in our last session, we focused on the foundation of scheduling and project controls in general. And we discussed the role of scheduling as a core pillar of project management and how scheduling supports control and decision making. And we talk about the importance of building a logic-driven schedule, not just a date-driven one. We also went through the steps to build a reliable schedule, the importance of the WBS definition and the activity definition, and we had hands-on on the software, Primavera P6. Almost that's it. And today, what we'll cover in today's session, we will move to the next level, let's say. We will focus more on the critical path method, the analysis, the optimization techniques, and some, of course, practical application on the software. We will cover the concept of logic and relationships. Then we will cover also the critical path method, the difference between critical path and longest path, the role of the float and the near critical path. We will also explore the duration type and the resource-driven schedule percent complete type, and the importance of rules of credit, and the difference between scheduling quality and scheduling maturity, the resource assignment and resource optimization, the optimization techniques like fast tracking, crashing, resource smoothing, and leveling. That's it. And of course, a hands-on, practical hands-on on the software. And we will see how scheduling become a decision-making tool, not just a planning tool or a scheduling tool. By the end of this session, as a key objective, you should be able to not only build a schedule, but also analyze it and challenge it and improve it. So let's move from building a schedule to using a schedule to manage our project. Okay. So before that, I already created my YouTube channel 2 days ago, and I uploaded already the first recorded session. So in this YouTube channel, we will find the recording of this session also, and any future session or tricks will be shared, inshallah. And on LinkedIn, also, I always share daily insights, lessons learned from real projects, and article posts related to the project controls and project management in general. And if you found this session useful, I strongly encourage you to follow me there. I put already the QR code. So because my objective is simple, to help you move from understanding the project controls basics and to mastering it and using it in the real project. So please take a moment to scan the QR code here on the screen. It's 2 QR code, one for my YouTube channel and the second one for my LinkedIn account. Thank you so much. Good. So let's move to our slide, which we reached yesterday. Sorry. Yeah. So we already started the creation of the project, and then the creation of the WBS. Then we move now to the creation of the activities. Okay, so there is an important concept we need to understand in Primavera P6 when we create activity. Of course, the activity is the level after the definition of the work package. The work package is the lowest level in the WBS. Okay. So the idea is to take these work packages and go through more details to define the actions, okay, and the activities, the tasks. And when we create the the activity in Primavera P6, there is some configuration of the activity details we need to understand it and to be able to, of course, build an effective schedule. First of all is the activity type. Okay, in Primavera P6, not all activities behave the same way. Each activity type defines how progress is measured and how duration and resources interact. And the first one, we task dependent, and this is the most common type. This is the default activity type. Yani activity with the duration is driven by dependencies, a logic, predecessor, and successor. There is an activity calendar. There is a defined duration estimated and assigned to this activity. And there is a resources which can be assigned. Okay. Example, any type of engineering activity, construction, any type of typical activity. And for your information, 95% of our schedule are task dependent. Okay. The second type is resource dependent. Here, the duration of the activity depend on the resource calendar assigned to this activity. It depends on the calendar of the resources. Third one is the level of effort. This type is used for supporting activity. So the duration is driven by other activity, which is automatically stretched from the start of the predecessor to the finish of another one. And this is, we use this type of activity, especially not to as this activity will not drive the critical path. It's in parallel, okay? And we use this type of activity to assign, especially the indirect resources and indirect cost, like project management, supervision, coordination, all these type of resources. So the level of effort activity will not drive the schedule, and the duration is stretched automatically aligned with the activity, the logic, which is linked. For example, start to start with the first activity, finish to finish with the last activity. The level of effort duration will take the overall duration of all these activities. So we use the level of effort as a summary to assign the the indirect resources. Okay, and this is the real example. Like, for example, project manager, project control, supervising team. We cannot assign them directly on the level of activities, but we assign them in this envelope or high level activity to manage their budget. Okay. So the number 4 is start milestone, and this is represent a significant start event. This is not a typical activity, and the duration of milestone is always 0, and we cannot assign resources. There is no weightage of milestone. A milestone is just event, is a flag to show us the start of any phase and to finish. Like for example, for start milestone, the kickoff meeting is a start milestone. The contract award is a start milestone. The notice to proceed is a start milestone. The start of construction, let's say for example, is a start milestone. So marks are start point. It's not an activity which will be like assigned to the project with a percentage of progress and weightage, etc. The finish milestone is the same concept like start milestone, but for the finish, to represent the key completion points. Same characteristics: zero duration, no resources, etc. Like for example, the project handover, the provisional acceptance, the final acceptance, the mechanical completion. All these are marks are a finish point for the project. Okay, and usually there is a contractual milestones defined in the contract, and those milestone we use those milestone usually in the first page of the schedule to give us a high level summary of the schedule. The top management or the manager or the sponsor will be not they will not need to go through details to read, for example, 50 or 100 pages of schedule. They will check the first page, which include milestones, and they will give him the real picture of the milestone status. And if there is any contractual milestone or intermediate milestone defined on the contracts, it needs to be clearly defined on and created as a milestone in our schedule. Okay. And the last one is WBS summary. WBS summary is similar like level of effort. Okay. We don't use it for logic and for critical path analysis. This is not a real activity, same as level of effort. But the difference between WBS summary and level of effort is the calculation of the duration. The duration will take systematically the duration of the WBS, which is assigned or created under this WBS. Like for example, to give you a simple example, here we have a WBS in the schedule. Let's say civil engineering, okay, as a WBS in our schedule. And in under this WBS, there is a 5 activity or 4 activities, okay? So the total duration of this activity, if we take into consideration the logic sequence, etc., maybe it will give us 50 days, okay? So the total duration of the WBS is 50 days, taken into consideration the overall duration of all these activities, okay? Now, if we create a WBS summary under this WBS, the total duration of this activity, which the type is WBS summary, will take systematically 50 days. Why it's required? Same to assign, for example, the indirect resources and indirect cost and other stuff. Okay, it's not related to the schedule, and it's not related to the driver path, critical path, etc. Okay, and if we compare this to MS project, for example, in MS project you can assign even resources in the WBS level, which is not aligned with the standard of the project management, because the table of WBS it's separate table compared to the activities. We cannot link WBS. We cannot assign resources in the WBS level. Okay, this is not the case in MS project. Even between WBS you can create a sequence. It's not doesn't make any sense. Okay, and when we create the activity type as a WBS summary, okay, the real, it's an activity, but it's not a real activity. It's just created to assign those resources high level, which will be aligned or related to this WBS resource or cost. Same. Okay. So it's just for reporting, not for planning. So why activity type is important? Because choosing the wrong activity type can lead the wrong duration, incorrect progress measurement, and misleading schedule analysis. Okay. So to make a conclusion here, in Primavera P6, activity type defines the behavior, not just classification. So be careful. If you don't understand activity type, you don't fully control your schedule's activity. The second component is the duration type. So the duration type defines the relationship between duration, unit, and unit per time. Here, please, I need your, this is a little bit sensitive, and there is a problem with the sound. Hello? Hold on, please. Okay, good. So we are still in slide number 23. We are talking about activity. We already go through activity type, which are 6 activity type. Now we will talk about duration type. Then we'll talk about the percent complete type. Okay. Very good. Okay. Sorry. So the duration type in P6, it's the relation between two axes or 3 axes. Sorry. The first one is the duration, is the time. The second one is the units, which is the quantity of work or the budgeted resources or the quantity, the time, like man hours. And the third one is unit per time. Unit per time is the productivity. Okay. And this is very important. The unit is a quantity, not just hours. Maybe in engineering, purely engineering, we can quantify by hours or even by number of deliverables. The unit per time is the productivity. Okay. And for example, the quantity is 100 welds. The quantity is 500 meters of trench. The quantity is 1,000 cubic meter of excavation, and the productivity is 20 welds per day, 150 meters per day, 50 cubic meter per day, etc. So this is the difference between, of course, quantity and productivity. And why there is a different type of duration type? Because the P6 will give you the flexibility to fix 1 or 2 axes and keep the third one variable. Okay, it's flexibility. Like for example, when we talk about the first one, fixed duration and unit, here the duration is fixed, the quantity is fixed. So what change? The productivity, the unit per time. Like for example, we have a quantity of 100 join welds, and we have a duration of 10 days. Okay, so the productivity which will be appeared on the system, on the software, it will be 10 welds per day, for example. Okay, so time and quantity are fixed, and productivity can be adjusted. And this is, to be honest, is aligned with the engineering and construction project, because always we have a quantity very well defined, okay, as a budgeted quantity, and we have a duration which was estimated on the estimation phase when we build the schedule, the baseline, and then the productivity ratio will be calculated on the software based on the estimation. But in the reality, of course, how we calculate the duration. The duration was calculated based on the quantities and the productivity ratio. So it's a loop. Okay. The second one is fixed duration and unit. Fixed duration and unit per time, sorry. The duration is fixed. The productivity also is fixed. So what changed the quantity? Like for example, duration is 10 days and the productivity, it's fixed like 20 words per day. So the quantity in the system will be adjusted systematically and calculated to 200 sorry, words in the budgeted resources. Okay, and this is really can be dangerous or if misuse it, because it's artificially increase the scope. And in our waterfall management and construction and engineering project, always the scope is let's say well defined, but of course in some cases, especially, and this is I want to open bracket here, but sometimes even in our engineering and construction we use the agility and the scrum, especially on the beginning of the engineering phase when the maturity of engineering is not very well defined. It's just conceptual or feasibility or even sometimes basic design. The scope of work is not very well defined, and so we will be obliged to go and to use even the agile and the scrum methodology to run even scrum meeting and sprint, etc. Okay, but when we go to the execution, it will be less. Even I know it's possible to apply the scrum in construction. Maybe with us, my friend Tarek is a trainer in this field of construction, and he can confirm that we can even apply the scrum on the construction field. I think Tarek is here. Anyways, so this is for the second type. The time and productivity are fixed and the quantity changes. The third one is fixed unit. Fixed unit, the quantity is fixed, the productivity also is fixed. So the what changes the duration. And this is really also it's not aligned with our field. Like example, we have a 200 words, productivity 20 words per day, and the duration will be systematically calculated 10 days. So simple idea here in this type, quantity is fixed. If we add, for example, more resources, the duration will be optimized. For example, fixed unit per time, the last one, productivity is fixed, and duration and quantity both can be adjusted, which is really not common and rarely used in our field. Okay, so as a conclusion, duration is not an input, it's the result of quantity and productivity. This is what we need to understand in our scheduling estimation, let's say. Okay, so let's move to the last type is percent complete type. In Primavera P6, progress is not measured in one single way. There is a different method, let's say three methods to calculate the percent complete type, and each one reflects a different reality. Let's start by the first one, duration. Duration percent complete. This is based on time elapsed. For example, we have a planned duration of 10 days. We consumed 5 days completed, so the progress is 50%. Progress is based on time. But here, there is a limitation. Time passing does not always mean work is progressing. Yani you can spend, for example, 5 days, and you are still achieving only 10% of the work. That's why this type of activity, let's say, or percent complete is not used in our engineering and construction field. The second one is unit per time. Please, if there is a real issue on the connectivity, someone contact me immediately on WhatsApp, okay? Because I'm not reading the chat. Unit, okay, unit percent. The second one we said is unit percent complete. Okay, this is based on quantity completed. For example, we have 100 support to be installed. We completed 40. The progress is 40%. We are still in the same slide, 23. We are talking about the percent complete type, the last component. So we said unit percent complete is based on quantity completed. Total 100, completed 40, the progress is 40%. Simple idea, progress based on actual installed or production. Okay, this is more accurate and it can be used even for in the construction field or any repetitive work or any quantity driven activities. The third and the last type is physical percent complete, which is, I believe, the most reliable method. This is based on the real physical progress. And the key here, it must be supported by the rules of credit. The rules of credit is a critical concept in the project management. Physical percent complete is not estimation just and we suggest or we pretend this is 10 or 20, etc. No, it's earned progress. Okay, instead of saying we are on 60% done, we define clearly what portion of work gives us what percentage. Like, for example, for engineering deliverables, we started the drafting. We will earn, for example, 10%. The draft issue for review or for review, it will earn, for example, 40%. Issue for internal cross check is 60%. Issue for approval to the client, we will earn 80%. Approve it, it's 100%, for example. There is these rules of credit is very well defined in the progress measurement system and in the schedule management plan, and it's part of the PQP and PMP of the project, of course. So the different percent type give different results, like duration percent based on time, unit percent based on quantity, and physical percent based on real achievement. So the question is, which one should we trust? And the conclusion for me, for our type of project, is physical or unit percent. It cannot be duration. Okay, good. So let's move to the next slide. Very good. So now we come to one of the most important parts of the scheduling, is logic and relationships. A schedule is not just a list of activities as we discussed before. It's a network of dependency. So the logic defines what comes first, what can run in parallel, and what must finish before something else. So let's go through the main type of relationship very simply. The first one is finish to start. Finish to start link is the most common. And we can say, according to the scheduling quality metrics, this finish to start represent even 75 to 80% of activity sequences need to be finished to start, and the remaining will be parallel activity. So one activity must finish before the next one starts. Example, you cannot start installation before the fabrication is finished, or you cannot start the installation before the reception of the equipment on site, or you cannot start the installation before you receive the IFC drawings, for example. So the rule here is I finish and you will start. This is the common and the most common type of activity. The second one is start to start. Two activities can start together or even with delay, with a lag. Example, trenching and pipe delivery can start in parallel. So the rule here, I start and you can start with me in parallel, maybe with a delay, with a lag, and maybe on the same time. Same for the finish to finish. Okay, finish to finish is two activities must finish together. One can start earlier, but cannot finish before the other one. Okay, like for example, the pipe installation and the backfilling. Backfilling can start early, but cannot be completed until the last installation is finished, for example. Okay. And there is a number 4, the type, the start to finish, which is conditional relationship. One activity cannot finish until another start and appear. Okay. And this is really very rare, and it's not common. And we don't use usually this type of link. And there is some procedures and the checklist and the baseline approval. You can find this as a condition. If there is a start to finish link, the schedule will be rejected. Okay. Same for the lag and the lead, which we will discuss about it. If there is a lead, which is the negative flag, the schedule will be rejected. What is a lag? A lag is a controlled delay or offset between two activities. This waiting time is a lag. And the lag is usually used in the parallel activity, like the link start to start or to finish to finish. Okay, start to start with lag, finish to finish with lag. This activity will start after 2 days, the second activity will start also. Or this activity will finish, and after 3 or 4 days, the other activity will finish. So this allows us to model a realistic overlap with control between activities. And even always, there is no freedom to use the lags. Always there is threshold. Same even for the parallel activity sequence, start to start and finish to finish. As we discussed, there is a limitation to use. You cannot put all your schedule start to start and the finish to finish. You can use only 20 to 25% of your schedule with the parallel sequence. What about lead? The lead is the negative flag, meaning starting before the predecessor reach a defined point. And in our best practices, we avoid using leads completely. It's not allowed. And this is one of the metrics of rejection on the baseline. The negative flag is not allowed because it reduces the transparency. It can hide unrealistic overlaps, and it makes the schedule harder to analyze, especially in the critical path method. So the best practices in the scheduling, we use positive flags only, and we use these flags only and mainly with the start to start and finish to finish relationships. Okay. I can see reading some messages that you need more example, but honestly, for time constraint, we cannot go to more details, and that's why in our full training, usually we take more time to we go through examples, real even examples, and there is also interaction, because first we don't have the time limitation. It's 7 hours per day, or between 6 to 7 hours per day, and four session. And second, also the number limited. In the real a full session, we have maximum 10 participants. So all camera are activated, all microphone are activated, and the screen are shared. And there is a more introduction. I received this comment yesterday from one of the participants, but I'm really sorry because it's only 2.5 hours. And mashallah, the number of participants is big. So this kind of let's say live streaming training cannot be interactive, but I will take note your question for sure, and I will try to answer inshallah. And you can contact me any time, and you have my LinkedIn, and please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I don't have any problem. I will answer your question as soon as possible. Okay, here we go. The critical path method. And really, if you can focus on with me in this, before going to the resource assignment, let's talk about one of the most important concept in the schedule is the critical path method, or we name it CPM. And in order to understand how Primavera P6 running and calculating the dates and the floats, okay? The definition, critical path method is a scheduling technique used to identify the longest sequence of logical connected activity that determine the minimum project duration or the total project duration. In simple terms, it tells us what is driving the project completion date. So a project is not made of one single path, and this is very important. It's made of multiple paths, parallel paths, and each path represents a sequence of activity from start to finish. And the critical path method allows us to identify all these paths, determine which one is the longest to determine the shortest project duration, highlight the task impacting project completion to prioritize critical activity effectively, and tell us how much an activity can be delayed without impacting the project or other activity, which is the float. The float can be total float, which is impacting the project, the overall project, or free float, which impact only the predecessor. Okay? So if the total float is consumed, the activity became critical. So activities on the critical path always have zero or negative float. They don't have any flexibility, which means any delay on these activities will directly impact the project. And one of the best practices in Primavera P6 is to define a float, a threshold, and not only zero, to identify critical and near critical activities early before float is fully consumed. However, this threshold, of course, should be used internally as a proactive tracking approach and should not be reflected in the official schedule update. And instead to put zero float as a critical definition, we can put, for example, 10 days of float. But this is internal tracking, cannot be shared with the client. And in some cases, we may have two or more paths with the same duration. And in this case, we have a multiple critical path. And the project risk increase because in this case, there are multiple driver of completion date. And this is possible. And we will discuss about it in the next slide. Now that we understand what the critical path is, let's see how Primavera P6 actually calculate that. Okay. So behind the CPM, there are two key calculation, which we name it forward pass and backward pass. It's answer the question, what is the earliest possible time we can execute this project? The total project duration. Okay, and how it's work. The first step is to sequence the activities with the link Okay, and this is the network. It's like a node or box split on 7 component or section: early start, duration, early finish, activity description, late start, total float, and late finish. So the second step is to add the duration. And of course, the duration is defined and estimate as assigned already in the activities. Then, once the duration have been entered, the third step is to perform the forward pass. We start from project start and move forward for each activity. Okay. The first activity, always the early start of the first activity is 0. Okay. So for example, the activity A, the duration of this activity A is 3 days. Okay. So the early finish of the activity is the early start plus the duration. Okay. It will take 3. And then the early start of the predecessor of activity A will take always the maximum early finish. Like for example, in this case, it will take 3, since the A, it's the driver of B and C. The early finish of B, 3 plus 2, 5. The early finish of C, 3 plus 7, 10. Same here for E and D. The early start will be 5 days. 5 plus 9, 14. 5 plus 3, 8. So here we have 3 activity driver of the activity F. And the note here that the highest duration is carried forward to a successor from its predecessor. Why? As this is the earliest time it will be able to start. Yani F, it will take 14. Why it's not 8? Why it's not 10? Because even if 8 days is already consumed, the activity F, it will we will be not will not be able to start. We need to wait until 14 days to start the F. So 14 plus 1, 15. 15 is the total project duration. Okay, this is a simple example. But of course, in real project, we have hundreds and thousands activity, and this calculation will be systematically run by software, by Primavera P6. Now, let's go to the backward pass. So the step 4 is to perform the reverse pass, which is the backward pass. And note that the lowest, this is completely the reverse. We will do minus instead of addition. And the lowest late finish gets carried back to the predecessor from the successor. 15 minus 1, 14. It will be assigned to E, D, and C. 14 minus 9, 5. 14 minus 3, 11. And 11 and 5, it take 5 since 5 is the lowest one. 5 minus 2, 3. 14 minus 7, 7. So 3 and 7, it will take 3. 3 minus 3, 0. Okay, good. So the critical path is the path with the minimum float, not always 0, but here in this case it's 0, and the longest way through the total float. So the formula is the difference between the late finish and the early finish. And 15 minus 15, 0. 14 minus 8, 6. 14 minus 14, 0. 5 minus 5, 0. 14 minus 10, 4. 3 minus 3, 0. And if the total float equal 0 or negative, the activity is critical. All the critical activity which directly link it and drive the last activity of the project is the critical path. Okay, now I will show you another simple, but before going to that, this is the Gantt chart, and it's named Gantt chart after Harry Gantt, who developed the concept in 1910, and it's used to illustrate a project schedule, like the bars, vertical bars. Okay, so this is the same. the same concept with another type of graph. Here, let me conclude this section with an important clarification. We can, you can see here, it's possible to have two critical paths. What I changed here, just the duration of activity C. Instead to put 7 in the first simulation, I'd make it 11. Okay, and in this scenario, we can clearly identify two critical paths. One is A, B, E, F, and one is A, C, F. Okay, and in our example in Primavera P6, I will show you this in P6. In the project, we have two buildings, two separate buildings, and we have two critical paths. For each critical path going from a separate building, and the two buildings are in different geographic zone. So longest path and critical path. Let's talk. Let's explain this, and what is the difference between longest path and critical path. In theory, we often say the critical path is the longest path, but in reality, there is a difference. So the longest path is the path that directly drives the project finish date. But the critical path is any path with zero or negative float. The key insight here, not all critical paths are necessarily longest path, but all longest paths are always critical. More explanation to make it simple. Let's take a simple example. We have, for example, a path A of 20 days, okay? So is the longest path. And the path B is 18 days. So near critical with only 2 days of float, okay? So now let's pretend something. Let's imagine a delay is happening in path A. So path A is delayed by 3 days. The path A, which is the critical path, the longest path, is delayed by 3 days. So the A becomes 23 days. We have a negative float of 3, -3. Okay? And the path B is still 18 days. So here, as the project evolves, the float is consumed. And the near critical path start losing the float. So if the path B may make any delay or any delay happen in path B, it may reach zero float. Okay, and at that moment we will have a multiple path, critical path. First A with -3 total float, and path B with zero float. Okay, so it's important to understand the criticality is dynamic; it's not fixed. Every cutoff date, every update, you can define a new critical path. Today is one critical path. Tomorrow there is 3 critical paths. It's possible. So why this is matters? Because focusing only on the current critical path is not enough. You must also monitor the near critical paths, because those near critical paths, the float is in this critical near critical path can be consumed, and once the float will be consumed, those near critical will be also become critical path. So as a conclusion, the longest path drive today completion, and near critical path drive tomorrow's risk. If you only manage the critical path, you are already late in managing risk. Okay, and in complex project, true control comes from mapping or managing not all the critical path, but the entire network of parallel paths. This is a very important point. Now let's move to a very important step in scheduling, is resource assignment. And the schedule without resource is only theoretical. Resource assignment is what connects the schedule to the real execution. This is a simple definition. So why resource assignment is important? Because it allows us to define who is doing the work and understand how the work will be executed. Link planning with reality, and it also directly impact the productivity, the duration, the feasibility of the schedule. And also it's purely aligned with the cost control and cost forecast and the ruling forecast, because each resource assigned it's aligned to the rate cost rate. Okay, I don't know if there is any network issue. Everything is good so far. Very good. So what do we assign? In Primavera P6, we typically assign three types of resources. The labor resources, like for example, laborers, engineer, technician, crews, etc. And non-labor, which are the equipment, machine, tools, and also the materials. Okay, and a schedule without resources is just a plan without commitment, to be clear. So resources bring reality into the schedule. And in advanced project controls, resource-loaded schedule are what enable realistic forecasting and decision making. And this is very important. And of course, when we submit a schedule or a baseline to a client, if it's not resource loaded, the schedule will be systematically rejected. Okay, good. So, and we will go to P6. Let's finish the slide, and we will go, inshallah, to the hands-on. So, after creating the activities, creating also the sequence between the activities, and assign the resources, the software will allow us to see the distribution of the quantities on weekly basis or monthly, or which time scale we will use. And it will also allow us to see the histograms of resources. And this is very powerful. Not only unit, also cost. Same here. Sorry. Yeah. Same here. We can see the man hours distribution, the staffing needed, manpowers, the quantities for each, the plan of quantities for each activity, what is planned for each week or even for each day. Okay, good. So let's move to another concept, the schedule quality versus maturity. Very often in project, people confuse these two concepts. What is the difference between schedule quality and schedule maturity, and why both of them are very important? And this confusion creates real issue, misalignment, wrong expectation, and even conflict between project managers, planners, and PMO. So let's talk first about schedule maturity. Schedule maturity defines the framework of scheduling in the organization. It answers what tools do we use, for example, what processes do we follow, what method and technique are we applying, what level of control and reporting do we expect. In simple terms, maturity defines how we will schedule. It also defines how we measure progress and what data we need and what quality level is required of details. Okay, this is the maturity. The schedule quality is different. The schedule quality is a set of metrics applied to a specific schedule. It answers, for example, can we trust this schedule? One of the key schedule qualities metrics, we typically check the open-ended activity or the open-ends activity without predecessor or successor. It can make and result problem in the scheduling. So logic quality, missing or incorrect relationship, also it's a problem. A float analysis, high float or negative float. The constraints, excessive or hard constraint on the schedule is a quality problem. A duration estimation, too long or too short duration, also pessimistic, optimistic. We discussed about it yesterday or the day before. The leads and the lag, excessive and or unjustified use of lags also is a quality problem. And the resource loading, missing or unrealistic, is a problem. These metrics ensure the schedule is logical, dynamic, and realistic. Okay. Now, here is the most important point. Schedule maturity defines what good quality means. Without maturity, we don't know what to measure, what is acceptable, and what is relevant. Okay. A real problem in project that many teams apply quality metrics blindly. For example, using the DCMA metrics without adaptation. The DCMA metrics is 14 point, defined by the I can't remember the department name, American department, to validate the schedule health, or the schedule quality. But not all projects follow the same logic, and not all metrics are applied with the same way and the same threshold. So we cannot use this metrics blindly. So to make a conclusion, quality without maturity is confusion, and maturity without quality is no control and misleading. Okay. So the scheduling quality or the schedule maturity define the rules, and the schedule quality measure the result. Okay. So let's move to the last slide before going to P6, is the optimization technique in scheduling. There are two main objectives of optimization. One is reduce and optimize the project duration, and one is optimize resource uses in case of over allocation, for example. Okay. So to optimize the project duration, we use the techniques of scheduling compression, which are the fast tracking and the crashing. And to optimize the resource allocation, we use the strategies like leveling and smoothing. What's the problem? If there is any issue, Shabab? There is any problem? Okay, good. So let's start by to discuss about fast tracking and crashing. So these are techniques, like we said, use it to accelerate the schedule. So fast tracking means performing activity in parallel instead of sequentially. Yani we will play only on the type of link. Instead to use finish to start, we will use start to start or finish to finish, parallel link in general. Like for example, start construction, take the risk, let's say, to start some construction activity before receiving the full engineering IFC package. Okay. The advantage, of course, is to reduce the project duration, but the risk here is huge. Why? Because it can make it result a rework. It can result, for example, a coordination issue. It can increase the uncertainty. So fast tracking is good since we are do think in parallel, but we need to accept more risk. The risk is high here. Now let's move to the crashing. Crashing means add more resources to reduce duration. And we will not touch the activity relationship type. Finish to start, we will keep it finish to start. But we will add more crews, more resources to accelerate the work. Okay? Like for example, uh, instead to use in a pipeline project, one crew with two or three welding machine, we will use two crews. For each crew, there is three welding machines, so the productivity will be double and the duration will be less. Okay? So the advantage, of course, is reduce the duration, but the impact here is increase the cost. The productivity, okay, will be good since the resources are double, but the cost also of these resources will be double. Okay, so the simple idea of crashing, add resources to go faster, but pay more at the end. So the key difference, fast tracking is time gain with more risk, work in parallel, and crashing time gain with more cost due to additional resources. Okay, this is honestly the simple definition. So now once we have the schedule, we also need to manage resource efficiently, because sometime we will have an over allocation of resources. And if we have over allocation, we will be obliged to apply this resource allocation strategy or optimization technique, like for example, the resource smoothing. Okay, so resource smoothing is adjust activity within the available float. What's the mean of that? You remember we discussed it early in the critical path method. There is some activity with a total float positive or positive free float. Those activity we can move them, okay, without impacting the total duration of the project. So moving this activity from the period of over allocation to a period which we have a capacity of work. Okay, so the project duration does not change. Example, as I said, shift in non-critical activity to reduce the peaks in resource demand. Okay, so optimize the resource without impacting the deadline, the overall deadline or the overall project. The critical path will be not impacted in this case. Resource leveling is different. Resource leveling is adjust activity even if it's impacting the schedule. Okay, يعني we don't care if this activity has float or not. A project duration may increase. Limited number of crews, delay some activity. Sometimes we don't have any choice, especially if the delay, the over allocation is detected in a critical activity. Okay, so the idea here is simple. Uh, for the leveling, sorry, I don't know if there is any issue. Okay, so the idea here is simple. The key difference is smoothing, optimize the activity within float. So move the activity within the float, so no delays. And leveling is dependent on the resource and may delay the project since the activity can be in the critical path. Okay, so the big picture, we have the fast tracking and the crashing for the time optimization, and smoothing and leveling for the resource optimization. Every decision in the scheduling is a trade-off related to the time, cost, resource, and risk. And the good scheduler doesn't just build the plan. They understand the impact of every optimization decision. And this will allow them to raise the alert on time and give the chance to the decision maker and the sponsor and project management, for example, to take the decision and the preventive and corrective action. So faster means risk, or cost optimized means float or delay. Okay, so this is the conclusion of the schedule optimization. Now we'll move to Primavera P6. This is the last slide. We'll go to P6 and then we'll go back to the code and we will close inshallah the session at the end. Okay, let me go to P6 now. Sorry. Very good. So yesterday we already started the project creation, then the creation of the WBS. This one, sorry, no, WBS. Yes. Then we said under each work package, we will add a list of activities. Okay. This is the list of activities. Just I will show you a simple example to add one activity. So to add the activity in P6, it's simple. And after the creation of the WBS, we need to go to this plus here, or right click plus add. And this wizard will appear. Practical way and best practices, usually when we create a schedule, we use import export Excel. Okay, not one by one activity, to be honest with you. But to make it simple, we will go with the classic way. Here, the software will ask you to add activity ID and activity name. So activity ID is a simple codification of activity, and this is very important for mapping if we will integrate Primavera with any other software, like for example Ecosys or Oracle Unifier or any other software of cost or risk or progress measurement. Okay, so this is like the ID of the activity, and it's unique. We cannot have two activity on the same schedule with the same activity ID. Activity name is the activity description. Okay, then when we click on next, they will ask me which WBS this activity is part, and if you select in the beginning the WBS, so it's easy, it will be systematically selected here. Then it will ask you what is the activity type, and this is the list of activity type which was explained: finish milestone, start milestone, level of effort, task dependent, and WBS summary. Okay, and by default it will give you the task dependent as by the default activity type. Then it will ask you to assign resources, and we will go to this after this step. And before assign the resource, we need to create the library. We need to create the list of resources before. Okay, so now we will click on next. We will not assign any resources. Here they will ask you about the duration type. We already discussed about it. Fixed duration and unit, or fixed duration and unit per time, or fixed unit or fixed unit per time, and we will keep it by default fixed duration and unit. The activity duration, by default it will take 5, but it's estimated, as we discussed it yesterday, if you remember, we said that before opening Primavera, before starting the development of the schedule, you need to have all the data ready in your Excel. Okay. Hold on, please. Check here. Timer. I don't know why it's not working, but anyways. Next, dependent activities. Here, the software asking to assign the predecessor and successor, and we will not do it now. More details, no thanks. So congratulations, you have successfully added a new activity. Finish. We will not do that for one by one, honestly. Otherwise, it will take ages. Usually, we click on this. Do not show this wizard again. And when we click on it, when you click just on plus, add, a list of activity will be added here, and you can adjust all the parameters previously discussed or explained in this activity details parameter settings here. You go to general, and you can change here the activity type, the duration type, the percent complete type, what is the calendar of this activity, which this is very important. Shabab, the calendar on P6 are very important. By mistake, if you apply a 7 days calendar, all the work will be misleading, because there is always weekend, there is holidays, vacation, Eid vacation, etc. All this need to be clearly assigned in the calendar. Okay. Then from this side, we can add the resources. And of course, we cannot add the resource without creating the list of resources in the enterprise data. We'll do it. We will do a simple. And here we can also assign the predecessor and the successor. Okay. So let me create 3 activity for the moment. Activity A, and I will give to this activity 25 days duration. Okay. I will add another one, activity B. I will assign 30 days. And remove this first. And activity C. With a duration of 20 days. Just to make it simple, Shabab, because really we don't have time to go in more details. Okay. Now I would like to show you how we apply the sequence or the relationship in the schedule. And the good thing in Primavera P6, for the same action, you can do it in different ways. And this is really one of the best thing on P6. Like, for example, I would like to link the activity A to the activity B. I can simply click on A with the control also select B. So both of them will be selected, and I will click right click, link activities. Here I will create systematically a finish to start link. Why this activity is still appearing in parallel, even the link is finished to start, because we didn't run yet the critical path, backward path, and forward path. To run this, you need only to go to tools, then schedule. Okay. When you click here on the schedule, the software will do the forward path and backward path, and they will calculate all duration, etc. Exactly done. You can make it even systematic and automatic. Instead to go click every time on schedule, you can go to schedule, then option, then select this option, schedule automatically when a change affect date. When you enable this option, you don't need to do every time F9 schedule. The software will make it easy. Okay, good. So now this is the first type. The second way, I would like to assign activity B or activity C as successor of activity B. I will select the activity B, right click, then I go to assign, then successor. So when you click on successor, the list of activity will be appeared here, and you will select your activity, which is the activity C for our example. When I click on C, also the activity C is systematically linked finish to start. So the question here, maybe I don't need to do the finish to start link. I need the start to start or to finish to finish, or I would like to add a lag. How we can change that? There is also a different way to modify the link. First one, you go to the activity, then in the activity details, there is the predecessor and successor, and here you can clearly modify the relation type. FF is finish to finish, FS is finish to start, SS is start to start. This is the common three which we are using. And here the lag. Like for example, I will show you simple. I will go to predecessor, is the start to start. So A and B will start in parallel with 5 days of lag. Okay, so you can see it here. A start, and after 5 days, the B will start. So this the link here is clearly appeared. Okay, this is the first way. And the last way to do a link, there is different. Another way here from this shortcut, here we can add the link, and also we can use the mouse. Here I will use the mouse to create a link, for example, finish to start between the activity A and this activity building paid finish to start like that. Up. So A, it's linked finish to start with a simple, let's say, using the mouse. Okay. So this is the activity sequence. So to make a conclusion, the first one is right click, assign predecessor or successor. Second one is click to activity and right click link activities. And third is to use the parameter and activity details settings, predecessor and successor, and assign here the link, and even adjust the relation type and the log. There is also the using the mouse, and if you double click on this arrow, sorry, like that, you can adjust the relation type and the log in your schedule. Okay, so let's move to the next one, is the resource creation and resource assignment. Okay, so first we need to create the list of resources. Here there is the list of resources created by default on the database, and we can create one new resources. As usual, click enterprise resources, then go to plus. And when we click on add plus, the wizard will appear. Same concept, resource ID and name. The resource ID is the codification of the resources, and the resource name is the name of the resource. Like for example, we will make here labor. Okay. Once we click on next, the software will ask you to select the resource type. Is it labor or non-labor, like machines or equipment, or materials? And in our case, for example, I selected labor. Okay. If it's like, for example, crane or any machine, we will use non-labor. If it's material, you will use materials, but you need to select, when you use materials, the unit of measure, if it is it kilogram or ton or linear meter or cubical meter, etc. Okay. Once we click on next, this is very important here. The software will ask you to identify or define the price per unit. This labor, what is the price of per hours? Okay. And when you assign the price, this is the basis of the resource calculation after the resource assignment on the schedule. Like, for example, if I put here 20 per hours, okay? So 20 per hours, and once the resource is created, and I will go to the schedule, the activity level, and I will assign this resource as activity resources. The budget, for example, is 10 hours or 20 hours or 30 hours. The cost will be 20 times $20. Yeah, this concept is similar to MS Project, yeah, honestly. Okay. That's it. Here, office, phone, email, address. We use this when the resource is nominative. Yani, sometime in the engineering schedule, we use like Mr. Ahmed or Zaid or any way is the engineer. Okay, so we put his name and the phone and email address, and once this activity assigned to Mr. X, even the software can send an email. You reach the date, you have a plan, activity planned, and give the notification to the user, to the resources, if it's nominative. Yani. Otherwise, we keep it blank. Same here, the roles is used once the resource is nominative. Like, for example, Mr. Bilal is a mechanical engineer. So the name of resources is Bilal, the role of the resources is mechanical engineer. But if it's generic, we name directly the resource mechanical engineer, and that's it. And this is what we are doing, honestly. A resource calendar, if the resource have specific calendars. If it's not, we keep it as it is. Alas, this is common. Congratulations, finish. Okay. So be careful here. Once the resource is created, there is always the hierarchy leveling structure. So you need to make sure that your resources in the correct level. And there is here the rows to manage the level. So we will make move left, like we did in the WBS, if you remember. Move left, and they keep it in the top. And here I created my first resources, which is labor resource. Same concept to create the non-labor resources. Same concept also to create materials. The one difference for the materials, you need to create the unit of measures. And also for the material, you need to put the price of material by unit, يعني meter or cubical meter or kilogram, etc., not hour. Okay. Good. So after the creation of the resources, we will go to the assignment of resources. So first is the creation of the list, the library, which can be used in different projects or several projects on the same time. But this is specific. The resource assignment is specific for this project. Okay. I will go to the activity A, for example, and I will right click, assign resources, and I will select this resource label, which was created early. Plus, okay, the resource is created. To make sure that the resource is assigned, I will select A, and I will go to the activity details menu. Here we have the resource labor already assigned. Okay, what we have as a data here, we have the default unit per time, which is the productivity, the budgeted unit. The budgeted unit is automatically calculated. There is the duration times the default unit per time. 25 times 8. Okay, which will give us 200. Then we have the actual unit. In case of actuals, when we start updating the schedule, we have the price per unit. If you remember, we put it 20, and we have the budgeted cost is 4,000. Okay, once the schedule will be updated, we will start putting the actual unit, and the actual cost will be also calculated. Okay, so same thing for all. We can add more than resources in one activity. But before starting this, you need to have, of course, the list of resource assigned for each activity ready in your Excel support. Then you go directly to resource load your schedule in Primavera P6. Great. So let's now go to. Okay. I will delete just this ABC activity because we don't need it. Okay, remember yesterday we discussed about dissolve and delete. Okay, and here the dissolve is not even enabled. Why? Because for the simple reason, the activity B now, there is no predecessor in the activity B. So since there is no predecessor, there is no need to make it. It's not possible to dissolve it. So that's why we use this delete. But if there is predecessor and successor, always use dissolve instead of delete. So the activity will be removed and the predecessor and successor will be linked to each other. Delete. So this is the schedule by default. Okay. Okay. Yes, 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 yes. Import Excel, it's possible. And even now there is some tools prepared by some engineers. You create everything on Excel, then with a sample VBA and macro click, you generate Primavera Excel format, and when you import this Excel format in Primavera P6, the entire schedule will be prepared, WBS and activity. But the sequence is always manual. Be careful. Okay, so here we have a schedule ready. Okay, with the same concept. Just to not waste the time, there is a list of milestone in the top, and there is a list of activity under each WBS. Okay, and a simple sequence between the predecessor and successor, respecting the technical dependency. Okay, so after that, we will build the entire schedule. So there is a different building 1, building 2, and under each building there is a sub WBS. Okay. When we click on run F9, the backward, the CPM, the critical path method will be executed. The backward, the forward, and the backward path will be executed, and the software will calculate, will convert the duration to dates. Okay. So starting the project in 30 of March 2026, according to the sequence, the schedule will finish in 24th of July 2028. Okay, so this is the duration converted to date using the calendars and using the sequence assigned. It will give us the time frame of the project execution from the day 1 until the day finished. So the 24th of July 2028 is the contractual finish date of our project. That's why the total float in this activity is equal 0. If this 24 July, it will go after, and for example, it will be August, this total float will be negative. Okay? So after running the schedule, the scheduling or the CP app, we need to make a quick analysis on the critical path. Because here, if I will scroll down quickly. Not all activities are critical. If you can see, there is a red and there is green. There is activity with high float, 50, 165, 10, 12. So different activity, different float. Okay. So not all activities are critical as we explained it earlier. Okay. But to make sure that our schedule is reflecting the reality, we need to filter on a critical activity and try to analyze this critical path if it's make sense or not. And this is very important step and require a workshop, an interactive workshop. Not only the scheduler will who will do this action. Okay, and here I will show you the difference between MS Project and Primavera, and this is the main biggest killer of MS Project, let's say. And for information, I don't know if you know about the news. In September, Microsoft already announced the end of service of MS Project. It's already announced by Microsoft. So, and you can find this news in the Google, of course. You can Google it. This is good news for me. Anyways, so if we filter on, well, there is a filter here, the option view and filter. If we filter critical, okay, there is a list of activity will be appeared. Let me go to group and sort, hide if empty. I'm sorry, we cannot go to all details, but just to show you the main difference and feature. Okay, here in the software, you can configure this filter. Okay, yani what are the activity critical will be appeared here. Okay, are they the longest path or all critical activity? So for that, you have the schedule option. You can go to the schedule options, and in the schedule option, we have the famous option here, define critical activity as. You can define critical activity in two ways. The first way, you select longest path. You will tell him, I want that Primavera P6 make only the longest path activity in red and consider it as critical. And this is not correct. Be careful. This is wrong, especially if the schedule is updated and the near critical float are consumed and we will have more than critical path. It's a problem. Okay. The second option, we will tell the software total float less than or equal to, for example, 0 or 5 or etc. days. Consider this activity as critical. Okay, and if I use this option, for example, also there is a trick there. What is happening here? When we apply the filter, look, there is, I don't know how many activities will be critical. But with a simple, if we are talking about a schedule of 20,000 or 15,000 activity, honestly, and trust me, it's not it's not possible at all to detect if all these activities, critical activities, are part of the same path or not. Okay? Impossible. Wallahi, according to my experience, it's impossible, especially in the largest schedule. If you have a schedule of 10,000 activity and we filter on critical activity, you can, it's not possible to detect easily with your eyes if those activity are part of the same path or not. Okay, So in this case, we will go to this option. It's advanced option in P6. I will go to the options. Okay. I will define critical activity as longest path, and I will go to the advanced option. I will activate this option, calculate multiple float path. Okay. And I will select the finish milestone of the project, which based on that, the software will generate the multiple path. Okay. When I click on close, save by yes, and schedule, then I need to go to group and sort, and then I need to filter by float path and WBS. Group by the float path and WBS. Look at this beauty. So if you can see here, I will do collapse all. Sorry. Hold on. I need to remove the filter because I applied the filter critical. I will put all activities. Exactly. Here we go. Make it like that. Let me remove this WBS to make it easy. Yes. So you can see here, 1 is critical path number 1. 2 is critical path number 2. These two parallel paths are totally separate. And if there is 3, 4, 5, it will appear. Okay. So what is the tricks here, Shabab? If there is any potential reason of delay in this or on this path or this path, you will be not able to detect it easily and to do your delay analysis without separating this path. And the first option, it will give you all critical activities in one filter, in one WBS or one structure. But here it's clearly identified. Number one is the critical path number 1, number 2 is the path number 2, etc. And if you can see clearly, all of them are total float equals 0. Okay? All of them are total float equals 0. So if we apply blindly the filter critical activity with total float equals 0, it will not give us the real picture. So we need to separate the critical path of each path separately to be able to track, to control the delays, and to justify in case of delay, any reason of delay, and will help us to make any extension of time or claims in the future. Okay, is it clear? Very good, very good. So let's move to the last section, is the resource analysis. So let's make it back as default by WBS. And view, expand all. Very good. So great. So if you can see here, we have four features or buttons. One is activity user spreadsheet. One is with activity user profile. One is resource user spreadsheet and the resource user profile. We can find this also under view, show on bottom, and you can find it here in this four option. Okay, so the spreadsheet, it will show us the distribution table, the data in number. Okay, and the graph will show me the S curve or the histogram. Okay, there is two general and two specific. What is the difference, or what is the meaning of general and specific? The general, if we are talking about the total labor resources, okay, or total non-labor. And specific, if we go to a specific resource, like, I don't know, engineer, or any other specific resource assigned on the schedule. So for general, we are using these two first bottom, and for the specific, we are using the two, three. What is the meaning of specific? If you can see here, I will filter on current project resources. If select electrician, this is the histogram of the electrician only. Okay. If they select the finished carpenter, this is the histogram of the carpenter. If we select the HVAC, the HVAC, this is the resource, the histogram of HVAC. Same for the distribution table. Okay, it depends on the resource assigned. I can see the distribution of the hours or the cost. It depends on which one we will select. If I want to see cost or quantities, unit hours or quantities in the, if I'm using labor or material resources. Okay, here is general. I don't have the option to select the resources. Okay, so what is the meaning of that? The graph is showing me something general, cost or unit. If it's unit, you can select labor or non-labor. You cannot select both. Okay. And if you can see here, you cannot select material. Why you cannot select material? Because we don't have the same format. Labor, all labor are hours. Okay, non-labor or non-labor are hours, but materials, there is cubicle, kilogram, so it cannot be consolidated in one graph. It's impossible. Okay, that's why we have the specific option. Okay, but if I go to cost, in the cost I can select all labor, non-labor, material, or even total. Why? Because it's simple. The format is converted in one format, is dollar or dinar or anything, is the cost. The cost is the common language of all everything, of all type of resources. Okay, even if it's not resources, we have the expenses also, are the indirect resources which can be assigned to the activity and are not related to the resources. Okay, so we can see clearly here, if we select the cost, we can see the distribution of the cost for each month and for each week. We can even make it weeks. We can even make it daily. And this distribution of cost, if with condition, of course, that the rate, the hour rate or the resource rate, budget rate is accurate, the cost, of course, it will give you a clear picture of the rolling forecast of your project. Okay, what is the forecasted cost for each week or for each 1 month in your project? And this is very powerful. This is very powerful, because don't forget the first session. The powerful of project control is the integration between resources, quantity, cost, schedule, productivity, risk. Everything is integrated and consolidated at the end to give us the effective KPIs. Okay. So same, I can change. This is cost by default. I can modify the cost to hours, for example. I go to spreadsheet fields, and here in the menu, I can select, instead to show me the cost, I want to see the even cumulative or non-cumulative unit. For example, budgeted labor unit, apply. Yeah, this is hours. Okay, so the distribution of hours. And we use the distribution of hours to build, for example, the histogram. Okay, because if we have a histogram here, this Okay, this is cost histogram. Let me convert it to unit labor, and they don't need all of this. Keep only budgeted. I will change the color, and okay, خلاص. So this is the man hours histogram. Okay, the total hours per month or per week. Okay, and the S curve is the cumulative total hours of the project. Okay, so one of the main question raised during the setup of the project, they will ask you about the staffing plan or the FTE histogram, the manpower histogram, the full-time equivalent histogram. Okay, there is a peak of 3,162 hours here. So this 3,162 hours is equivalent to how many manpowers, how many person. Okay, and this is also one of the feature in the software. You can clearly and easily go and split this total hours on the total the base hours time, how many hours per month, for example, if it's monthly, and once it will be activated, this total is equivalent to 18 manpowers or 18 full-time equivalent, and it will give you an idea how many person you need for each month or each week in your project as planned. Okay, so this is for the manpower histogram. Now let's talk about the progress measurement and update. And this is very important step to close this session. We still have 30 minutes. So once we finalize the schedule and we do our all analysis and we apply the techniques, the optimization, etc., we need to freeze this schedule as a baseline. Okay, and in order to start updating the schedule, we cannot start immediately the update in the schedule, then we will lose the traceability of the reference. So that's why we need to copy this schedule as a backup reference, which we name it baseline. Okay, and this baseline will be the basis of all variance analysis. We will compare the actual data, the actual trend with our baseline, the actual date, the actual percent complete, etc., the float analysis. So that's why we will go here and we will go to project, and then we click on maintain baseline, and we will create the baseline. Here we will ask him to add baseline. What's the option here? Save a copy of the current project as your new baseline. The software asking you, do you want to save a copy of the current project as your new baseline, or convert another project to a new baseline of the current project? The second option, if you have already a schedule in the database in your EPS and you want to use this schedule as a baseline, you can use the second. When you click on OK, it will open the EPS here, and it will ask you which project you want to use as baseline. But it's not the case in our option. I will use the first option, save a copy of the current baseline project as a new baseline. Once I click on OK, the software created this line in nursing home baseline. I can modify the name here. I will name it, for example, approved baseline. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Haki, for the question. This is very important question. How many baseline we can create in the same project? Okay. Let me answer this question. In MS project, you can assign only 11 baseline. MS project, you can assign only 11 baseline, and more than 11 the system will not allow you. And even if you try, this it will be bug. I mean, it will be disaster. Okay. In Primavera P6, you don't have a limitation. You can assign even 1,000 baseline. But the question here, what is the reason why we need more than baseline? In reality, for every project, we have one baseline. Yes, the theory is that every project have one baseline. Even if there is a change, there is additional work, there is a rebaseline. So the new baseline will be our official baseline, and the old baseline will be obsolete. Okay, but the idea here, first, never delete your old baseline, because the old baseline is always the reference in case of claim, in case of any problem or dispute, etc., or arbitration. Okay. A second thing, why we use this baseline option in Primavera P6, which is one of the best practices, we don't use it only for baselines. We use it to back up. We use it to back up the update, the cutoff update. Okay. Yani, this week I will apply the progress, and I will start updating the progress for each activity. Okay. Next week, I will apply also the same the progress in the same schedule. So what is the meaning of that? I will lose the traceability. Okay. So instead to modify the same schedule, in all cases, I'm obliged to modify the same schedule, but every cutoff at the end of the week or the month, it depends if it's weekly or monthly update, I will create a baseline, but it's not a baseline, it's a backup of update. Okay, I will make it update of cutoff date. For example, today is 25th of March. I will make cutoff 25th of March. Next week it will be the week after, the week after, the week after, etc. So at the end of the day, if a project of 2 years or one and a half year, and you have a weekly update, okay, you will be obliged to create a number of update for each week here as a baseline. So that's why limitation of number of baseline, it will not help me in this case. Okay, this doesn't affect the completion calculation, of course not, because this is the next step will answer your question, yeah, Fawzi. After creation of the baseline, I am obliged to go to assign baseline. When I click to assign baseline, I will tell the software, or I will ask the software to use this baseline as the approved baseline as basis of the comparison. Okay, even if I have thousands of baseline created here, the software will use only this approved baseline as basis of variance analysis. Okay, so you don't care about the other. But why we need the other? Maybe sometime we need to make a trend analysis, we name it. I need to compare this weekly update with last week update to check what is the difference, what are the activity delayed, what are the activity really make a real progress and impact on the schedule. Here I will select in the secondary option, for example, the last week update, and based on that I will do my analysis accordingly. Okay, that's why we use the backup of each week update as a baseline. Okay, the question of our friend, the update is done manually. The answer is yes. For me, I never use any automatic system in to update my schedule, except the integration of softwares, like for example in the engineering schedule. Engineering schedule usually link it to the list of deliverable. We name it MDR, master deliverable list or list of deliverable. Okay, and in a big and global company, there is softwares of engineering management. This software, you will have the list of deliverable, okay, there, and the discipline lead will go to the software to update the status based on the rules of credit where we are exactly. Okay, So based on the status of the progress update on this software, there is a mapping on the engineering software between this deliverable and the activity on the schedule to update systematically the progress. Okay, this is the only way to do automatic update. Okay, there is always also the Excel way, etc. But I prefer to do it manually to make sure that I have a clear idea about any updated activity. And between us, let me tell you something. Let me give you a trick here. How many activity in your schedule? 10,000. Okay. Do you what is the percentage of periodic progress you can reach per week for 2 years or 1.5 years schedule or project? Anyone can guess? What is the maximum periodic progress or weekly periodic progress I can reach if I have a project of 18 months? Anyone can put in the chat a guess. Let's make it a little bit interaction interactive. In percentage, huh? Percentage, weekly percentage, maximum for 18 months. 2%, even 2% is high, huh? Yeah, maybe 1.5, something like that. So what I'm trying to say, the periodic progress on weekly basis is not big. So the activity which will be also updated is proportional to this percentage. And if you have 100 activity, 1,000 activity, you will update only 1.5. If you have 10,000, you will update only 1.5%. Okay, Fauzi, it's clear. Sorry, I misunderstood you. So, so the activity which will be updated maximum is like Fauzi said, 30 activity. 30 activity, I can make it manually. I don't need any software, except if we have a system. And we need to, of course, apply the company procedure and integration. If there is any system on the company which is linked and integrated with this Primavera P6, you don't have any choice, and you need to respect your procedure and your system, and you need to apply the effective way of automatic update using the softwares. Like, for example, integration between Primavera P6 and Oracle Unifier, or the integration between Oracle Primavera P6 and Ecosys. This software using the API, there is a capability of integration which make you يعني give you the possibility to update your schedule systematically and always. Even with we have integration, you need to go and make a manual check if the progress is accurate, if the progress is good. Maybe you need to do an audit to check the other system. In engineering, maybe we use the document control softwares like Aconex and other. We use this to verify the status of the engineering progress, if this document really went issue for review or for comment or for approval or issue for design or for construction, etc. Okay, so once this baseline is assigned, we click on OK. And here we have two different schedules. One is the live schedule, which will be updated. And another one is in the backup as a baseline reference. Okay, and the Gantt chart, even I can show you the both of them. Click easy in right click bars, and I will enable the baseline bar, and I will make it like that. Click on OK, and خلاص, we have two separate bars. One is red, one is yellow. مكشخة. So two bars. One is your actual schedule, and one is your baseline. Another option, please, when you have a baseline approved date, contractual finish date, like this one, 24th of July. You remember last session we discussed about the default date in your project. Okay, here you need to go back and assign your must finish by date. To with that, your software will calculate the accurate total float. Okay, so the must finish is 24th of July 2028. I will keep it like that, and I will come back to my schedule, and I will apply run a schedule. Now let's do a simulation here. The simulation here, if I will uh, pretend that in end of March 2026, today let's say is let's pretend today is 5th of April, okay? And the project is not started yet. We are in 5th of April and the project is not started yet, okay? So if I go to here schedule and I will make it 6th of April, let's say, look what's happening, Shabab, here. My actual project is moved to 6th of April. But the yellow bar, the baseline, is still there. But why? Because the software now have one basis of reference. It's frozen. Even if I go to May, for example, okay, schedule. That's it. And here we can see clearly the total float is minus 23. Why minus 23? Because the complete finish date as per baseline, it was 24th of July. But the actual schedule you have now 24th of August. How we can show the baseline date? It's easy, simple. We can add the column here, dates. BL project start is the baseline start. BL project finish is the baseline finish. And even the variances. I can show you what we have as variance project finish date and variance duration. Here we go. Now you can start doing your variance analysis here. Okay, what we have here, we have minus 23 day variance duration, variance finish date compared to the project finish date. And if you compare 24th of July and 24th of August, we have 23 calendar day. Okay, the duration is 0. Why? Because we didn't touch the duration. We moved only the start date. For each activity, the duration is similar. There is no difference on the total duration as planned and the total duration actual. But what is the difference? The difference is the start and finish date. So that's why we have a variance in the project finish date and we don't have a variance on duration. Okay? This is a one. Second one is the progress. Okay? When we start updating the schedule, we will start we'll go to select the activity and we will go to the status and we will inform the software. For example, this activity is started, okay, on this date. And this activity progress is, let's say, 40%. Okay, this activity is finished on this date. If it's not finished, we will put expect finish. Okay, we will update also the actual resources here. When we go to resources, we will update the actual. Here, we did 40% and we have actual. So the software will start calculating, okay, your we will start calculating your budgeted, your actual, etc. Fixed unit, oh, fixed duration unit we said. Okay, that's why the duration was changed. Anyways, so and here you can show also the percent complete, actual, and plan. A schedule percent complete and performance percent complete. And here we go. This is another way to do another type of variance analysis. You have the actual percent complete and the scheduled percent complete. Your scheduled percent complete is 3.46% versus 0.42% actual. So you have a negative variance in progress. And here I will open a bracket. And this is my last comment before giving the floor to my friend and colleague Ahmed to close the session. From where you pop up, you go to right click column to add the column. And then you add the column here. This is for the column. There is a list of available options. You select one of the available options, and the selected option will appear here in your table. I'm really sorry, I cannot go more in details, but as we explained early, and the full training, we go and make a deep dive on all of this. So between bracket now, and this is when the project control lie. And my friend Peter have a seminar maybe tomorrow. The name of the seminar is when project control lie, and I really appreciate this name. And this seminar is organized by the Project Control Academy. Okay. What is the meaning of that? Sometime, and I already I have a article in LinkedIn related to this subject. Sometimes your KPIs, your dashboard, give you a green KPIs. Okay, you have a positive progress, you have a good productivity, you have a good SPI, you have a good CPI, you have everything green. But in parallel, your project have a big problem and you are not meeting the milestone, contractual milestone. How come? I have a positive progress and in parallel, I have a delay on the schedule. Anyone guess why and how come? I repeat, I have a positive progress. Actually is 20% versus plan 15%. So I have 5% positive. I have a good productivity. I have SPI positive, CPI positive, everything positive. And my project is delayed and I'm not meeting the contractual milestone. How come? No, all input are correct. There is no false input. The percent complete is realistic. All parameters are correct. Quality management issue? No, not quality management. The mass complete option, it's not related to the mass comp. All configuration settings on the software are correct. All the data from the disciplines and from the stakeholders are correct. It's not related to stakeholder engagement. Estimation, no, not estimation, not rules of credit. Okay, so let me share with you the reality, and then we close the session. You remember the story of multiple paths? All depend on this. You remember the first session when we talk about governance and everything related to governance and the project control govern everything? Because in your project, let's assume that you have some activity part of the non-critical path. which is the total float is positive. Okay, and that these activity are not impacting your contractual milestone. And one smart team leader, okay, instead to receive a complaint from the sponsor and from the client that the progress is negative, he will start and prepone those activity. Even if it's in the future, he will start working, since he can create the work front. Okay, but in parallel, maybe he has a problem of the critical activity. So to hide this problem, he will start earning progress in non-critical activity, which is possible. Okay, earning and prepone this activity and start progressing the work in non-critical activity, and the result, he will mislead the KPIs. It's not wrong. What he's doing is correct. He is earning a real progress, but he is working in non-critical activity, and he is keeping the critical activity delayed, which will push at the end the milestone. So the conclusion: you have a positive progress since you earned progress from non-critical activity, and you have in parallel WPI good, SPI, because it's simple comparison between budgeted and earned and plan. But from schedule perspective, your critical path is delayed because you are not doing the good progress in the good path, in the best path. This is the importance of the multiple path analysis team. I don't know if it's clear, but I ask you to go and check the article. I really detailed this with the detailed examples. So I think it's enough for today. Thank you again. Thank you very much for your time, for your